Welcome to Art of the Western World, Clip 2. This clip will deal with an overview of the ancient world that will be taking us from Egypt, Greece, and into Rome. One of the first things we're going to look at is a great deal of architecture. That's because these are some of the artifacts that have been left over from a very permanent culture, as in a place that was not nomadic, where people lived for a great deal of time, long enough to build significant structures. And so we're going to look at mastabas, which are small tombs, and stepped pyramids. We will also examine the pyramids of Giza, the far more impressive, but they are unique. And the stepped pyramid is far more of common for this period. So we'll spend some time looking at some very early architecture. It's probably important for us also to look at Egyptian sculpture. In this case, we look at an image of Kharfe, who was a ruler for the period. And we see a couple characteristics that we will note from Egyptian sculpture, the most important of which is that the figure is solid, meaning that the arms and legs are not disconnected from the body in any way. This was to maintain Ka. So if a part of the body were broken off, let's say an arm, the belief was that the spirit or Ka would leave the figure and the figure would not have any opportunity to get into the afterlife. Because of this, they're very conservative in their sculpture techniques. So we'll look at a number of pieces that help reflect this religious belief about Ka. We'll move into the early Greek period. This is probably one of my favorite pieces in the entire course. It's called the octopus jar. Very simply, it's a container. Probably would have contained olive oil or something else that was readily traded. Why I like this jar so much is that the motif, the octopus, represents, of course, the sea. Greece is an island nation. One traveled from one island to the other by boat, so the sea and water was extremely important. But also the way in which the octopus form envelops the circular form of the vase, so that the arms and tentacles rather move out around the jar, and the roundness of the jar makes the octopus appear three-dimensional. He's quite whimsical. If we move on to a latter period here, we have Ajax and Achilles playing dice. So you have a vase. It's been beautifully drawn, carved into, to provide the background was red. The finish was black, and they carved away all of the black to give us this leftover, this relief, if you will. And there's words coming out of their mouths as they're playing the game, almost as if they're saying, "Damn you, no, it's my turn." At any rate, wonderful vases. We will look at a series of those from Greece. We will also look at the Greek perfection. This is a very a newly discovered piece, a bronze, and one of the differences between Greece and Rome is that much of Rome is made of marble, copying the bronzes, which were more fragile. We see in Greece the idealized man. He is buff. This guy has abs of steel. Even though he's an older man, he is still has the body of a young man. Men are naked in Greek sculpture, and in Roman sculpture we'll see the reverse, where women are naked and men are clothed. Towards the very end of the Greek period, we begin to see that shift happen. So we'll definitely spend some time looking at this sort of classical. It's important for us to look at these ideals because they are going to reoccur when we get to the Renaissance. Here we have a Roman sculpture, and what a difference. In this case, this is a very recognizable man. They would know exactly who he was. There's nothing perfect about him. His face has sunken, his cheeks are showing you where he's missing some teeth. His nose is enlarged, perhaps through drinking. And so here we have a man who is old and honored, as opposed to the Greek, where you have a man who's old, and we want to disguise the fact that he's old by giving him this very young body. If we move on to a little bit of Roman architecture, we'll certainly look at the Colosseum. This is a building that is made predominantly of concrete. So when you look around the city and you see concrete sidewalks, concrete roads, concrete buildings, and you think, it's not a very pleasant place to live. The water, the sun beats off of it. It's hot. You can blame the Romans. They invented concrete. And the other thing they invented were these wonderful buildings that were used for sporting as well as political purposes. And when you go through the Colosseum, you would find that you enter an entrance. It's marked with a Roman numeral above it telling you where your seat is. You walk in just as you would at Copps Coliseum or anyone else, any other arena. And so that we still model arenas based on this. Another factor here is that it was the largest stadium for the longest time. 50,000 people could fit in here at once. Quite a remarkable achievement. And so just this purpose then of the clip is just to give you an overview of the kinds of things we're going to look at in the ancient world. And I look forward to seeing you in class. Take care.